What's up, weirdos? I'm Felicia and I like scary movies, and 2 updates. 1, I got my hair done. So now I look more like a witch, or, you know, Ginger from Ginger Snaps is a clear reference here. And the second thing is that I finally completed my spooky photograph background. I only had about half of it done, and then I had that weird fabric to conceal the fact I didn't have enough photos. But I finally went back to the thrift store and I am freaking thrilled. Look how spooky. It's so spooky. But today we are back with our Buffy series and we are ranking the big bads, baby. Now, as is going to be the trend of all of my Buffy videos, this video is full of spoilers. Note it now. Move on if you need to. Come back later. Whatever you gotta do. I'm gonna spoil the whole series for you right now. Now, as I begin, it might seem similar to my season rankings, but it's different. I changed it up a little bit in here. So, number 7, we have Adam, Dr. Walsh, and the Initiative. Now, I already complained about season 4 enough in my ranking the seasons video, but now I get to complain about Adam. So, ultimately, he is the big bad that Buffy needs to destroy at the end of season 4, but he was actually created by a human scientist, Dr. Walsh, and it is a part of the government conspiracy, the Initiative, which is studying demons, vampires, and all things spooky, and trying to do experiments on them for ulterior motives, maybe super soldiers, etc. But what I will say is interesting about Dr. Walsh's work is she actually takes work with demons and humans, because as you find out in season 4, not only did she build Adam from, of course, a bunch of different demon parts, but she also has been doing experiments on Riley himself, giving him all these drugs and making him as submissive as possible to whatever she says. So in her way, she's trying to make what the government, you know, in Buffy says is the ideal soldier, will do whatever the commander says and is incredibly strong, superhuman, can defeat anything. So though I'm never a huge fan of government conspiracy stuff in my supernatural TV shows, I do think it's an interesting concept. My biggest issue is the lack of fun. It's not very fun. Adam, not fun. He has no personality. They try to give him little Buffyisms to say to make him appear interesting, but ultimately, he's just a bore. And Dr. Walsh ends up being murdered by Adam at a certain point in the season. I do wonder if it would have been more interesting if Dr. Walsh ended up being the final villain of the season versus Adam. Like, I wonder if it would be more interesting if, like, Adam was still being controlled by Dr. Walsh at that point, along with Riley. I wonder if it could have been saved somehow, but for me, this is the most boring big bad. In our next spot, we have the Master from season 1. The Master, I think, was a great season 1 big bad because he's this super freaking old vampire. He basically got imprisoned in the Hellmouth and he has to get all of this power from this event called the Harvest so he can break out of it, kill the Slayer, have an apocalypse party, etc., etc. Something interesting about Buffy that I didn't really think about until I was making this list, but only seasons 1 and 2 are the big bads vampires. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but the rest of the big bads are ultimately demons, ex-gods, other spooky things. But these first 2 seasons are the only ones we get long-term vampire big bad stories. This season also has Darla, who was sired by the Master, and this is helpful because, you know, Darla's kind of like Angel's ex and like a jealous girl and lots going on there. But it's nice because we can track the main vampires that come into Buffy. Basically, the Master sired Darla, who sired Angel, who sired Drusilla, who sired Spike. And those are the main vampires that we get throughout the series. So that is definitely helpful to have in season 1. This season's big bad is also joined by the Anointed One, who I think is definitely the most boring big bad situation of all. Honestly, this would have been the number 7 slot, but the Master makes it slightly more interesting. But yeah, that little boy, he just doesn't do anything. He's just always sitting there. Spike kills him so easily. He literally just throws him into the sunlight. Simple, not impressed. And the number 5 slot, we have the trio. So that is Andrew, Jonathan, and their leader, Warren. They are 3 super nerds that are trying to take over Sunnydale and realize the thing in their way is the Slayer. So they start trying to do all of these, they seem like practical jokes, but they are technically attempts on her life and sanity. And they end up doing some pretty crazy stuff. They each have sort of a specialty, you know. Andrew's really good with demonology, Jonathan's pretty good at that, Warren's like a super scientist, but ultimately they just kind of seem like annoying flies buzzing around Buffy's face that she has to keep like swatting off. Though they do get one really good scary thing in there when they make Buffy think that she is in a mental institution and she just thinks she's a vampire slayer. That one, that episode, that got pretty crazy. And then of course the big bad title moves over to Willow when Warren kills Tara with a gun, a weapon that is very rarely used on Buffy. We do see it in season 4 with the initiative, but typically guns, Buffy just says these things never help anything, and she's much more interested in, you know, swords, stakes, axes, which is great for me because I don't really enjoy watching gun violence on screen, and it's much more fun for me to watch a girl beat up a vampire and then stab him with a stake. Though I do like when Buffy uses the rocket launcher to kill the judge. That's pretty cool. But all that being said, that makes Warren killing Willow's girlfriend Tara with a gun so shocking in season 6 because we've never seen anything like that on Buffy before. It almost feels like that kind of violence doesn't exist in this Buffyverse, and when it does, it is just gut-wrenching. And then of course that turns Dark Willow at the end, who ends up being a very scary, epic big bad, but ultimately is Willow just being totally destroyed by grief and realizing no one should have to feel like this, and so she's just gonna destroy the whole world, and then Xander talks her down. That scene though, I mean, I always cry at that scene, and it's you know what it's not though? I don't cry when he talks about the yellow crayon. Everyone says the yellow crayon, blah, blah. That's not when I cry. I cry when she keeps hitting him with like blasts of magic and he keeps standing up and saying, I love you. And then she gets him again and he says, I love you. And oh my God. That is like what just makes me burst into tears. All right, and on number 4 slot, we have Spike, Drusilla, and of course, Angelus. Now in season 2, Spike brings Drusilla to Sunnydale because she is super weak from an attack they had in Prague, and he believes the energy from the Hellmouth will heal her. While they're there, they of course have to fight Buffy and the Scooby Gang along with Angel, until something crazy happens. Buffy and Angel, who are deeply in love, have sex for the first time, and Angel loses his soul. So this is when we find out more about Angel's past. When he was Angelus, when he was a soulless vampire, he was one of the worst. He thrived on mayhem and torturing people and was just about as evil as you can get until a group of gypsies put a curse on him that he would have a soul and feel guilt and pain for everything he had done for the rest of eternity. The only way to lift the curse is if Angel experiences one true moment of happiness, which of course he does when he has a little sexy time with Buffy. Angelus is such a great big bad because, as I said with the Master, it's very exciting to actually have a vampire being the big bad because we're not going to get that in later seasons, but also because of the emotional weight he has with Buffy. She loves him, but he's torturing her friends. She loves him, but he's not who she fell in love with. She loves him, but he tortures Giles for a very long time and kills Jenny Calendar. He does all of these horrible, horrible things. So I think having Buffy's boyfriend become the big bad is so smart because it's just emotionally destroying her. At the end of season 2, Angelus is trying to summon the demon Akatha to basically bring about the end of the world. Apocalypse again. We have a lot of apocalypses in Buffy. And after he awakens the demon, the only thing to stop the apocalypse is the blood of the person who awakened Akatha, which of course is Angel. So they have this big sword fight. They're fighting it out while Willow's also trying to restore Angel's soul. And of course, at that last moment, Angel gets his soul back just as Buffy has to make the choice to kill him or not. And she chooses to kill him because she has to save the world. She is the Slayer first, and Angel's boo second. All right, next up we have Mayor Wilkins. He actually founded Sunnydale way back when and has apparently been the mayor ever since. Nobody noticed? I don't know. But after he founded Sunnydale and realized it was sitting on a hellmouth, he made a lot of deals with a bunch of demons so he could just live forever and ever and ever. And then in season 3, where he's the big bad, he is trying to complete the ascension where he can become full demon giant lizard creature. Now, what I really love about the mayor is that he started out as a person and just became more and more demon over time as he made more and more deals with different demons. I love that he is so quirky, like he's very clean and he makes cookies for Faith, and he just like has this way that he likes to live his forever life that is like very type A, and I don't know. He's always got a smile on his face. He's always like playing the character of the mayor. And there's just something about all of those personality traits being contrasted with this guy that's trying to become a complete demon that makes it fascinating and so fun to watch. And then, of course, in season 3, we also have the turn of Faith. She comes to town, she's fighting on Buffy's side for a while, and then bad girl gets really bad. Faith accidentally kills a human being, and a lot of times on Buffy, they talk about the fact that killing a person changes you forever. You can kill demons all day long, but if you kill an innocent, you're gonna be changed forever. And that definitely happens with Faith. After she's killed and is pretty much kicked out of the Scooby Gang, the mayor picks her up and gives her a new life. She also had a rough childhood, and so the mayor becomes this father figure to her, which is a really interesting relationship to watch develop over the second half of that season. And you can really tell Faith is like desperate for that. She is like desperate to be loved, to be accepted. She always feels like the black sheep, the odd one out, the one nobody cares about, and the mayor makes her feel special, and so she does whatever he says. Okay, we're in the top 2. So, second place, we have season 7, The First. And The First is basically the first evil. It predates man, it predates demons, it predates it all. It is the origin of evil. Because of the balance of good and evil on Earth, The First cannot appear in corporeal form, so it can only appear as what feels like a ghost of dun-dun-dun-dun, dead people. So this also gave the series an opportunity to bring back characters that we haven't seen in a while, that have died previously, bring them back on the show, and they are just playing The First, which is pretty cool. Something that's really scary about The First is not only can they take the form of people that have died, that includes the undead, by the way, they also have what the Buffyverse wiki calls memory absorption. So they have every single memory that that person ever had, so you can't play the old "what did you say to me when you were 4" game, because they'll just say they know. The First also seems to have the ability to do things like telekinesis. There's a scene where it pretends to be this poltergeist in the house haunting Dawn and basically creating an atmosphere where it makes Dawn think that her mother is trying to get through to talk to her, to manipulate her. It also has the power of hypnosis, which it uses with Spike through a trigger that basically makes him attack whenever the First wants him to. All not good, all bad. But ultimately, the end goal for the First seems to be typical hell on earth, and ultimately trying to defeat good so that evil can reign, because ultimately good and evil are a balance, right? And so the way it wants to do that is by ending the Slayer line, killing any potential Slayer that could rise when Buffy dies, so that there will be no more Slayer, and thus there will be nothing to fight the evil. Thus, hell on earth. The First uses these messed up monks, I don't know what they are, called the Bringers, to attack and kill the potential Slayers, but also most terrifyingly, Caleb. Caleb is, I think, one of the scariest big bads on Buffy, and one of the scariest dudes in general on Buffy. He dresses as a preacher, he's already killed a lot of people, and the First takes advantage of him and makes a lot of promises to him so that he will kind of be their warrior to defeat Buffy and lead this apocalypse. Caleb also knows how to manipulate people, how to lead Buffy and others into a trap. One of the worst things he does is he takes Xander's eye, and he does all these things with such glee and so much joy that it's just so disturbing. I mean, ultimately he's a serial killer, and he really kind of gives those vibes off, which is very different for Buffy, but the way it works with the First, I just think it works really well. And the other thing Caleb does while he's hurting people physically, he's also degrading people. He's using a lot of like religious terms and things like that to let people know what sinners they are and why they have to die or why they have to do these things. It's just creepy and disturbing on a different level than I think we had ever seen in Buffy. So I think it's a really powerful character. Oh, and we can't forget the Tarakans. Am I saying that right? I can't even remember right now. But they are like the ancient, primitive vampire that the First brings up out of the Hellmouth to attack and defeat the Slayer. And they are just like the gnarliest, scariest looking vampires. They're really hard to kill. They're really good fighters. And, you know, of course they have this moment where they go into the Hellmouth and they just see that there is just an infinite amount of these things, which is so overwhelming. And it kind of opens the world up in a way. We're always thinking about like Sunnydale as this like tiny, I don't know how tiny, but this town, right? Where this Hellmouth sits. But to think about what's underneath that Hellmouth that could come out and spread out past Sunnydale is I don't know. It opens the world up in a way that I think is really cool. And in first place, you knew it, I knew it, it's Glorificus. I just love Glory. She is an ex-god. She was in some sort of hell dimension ruling with 2 other gods. She got too powerful. They kicked her out of there and banished her to live on Earth in a human form who is Ben. And so she can kind of break out of that human form and be Glory, or the human personification of Glory, whatever that is, and then gets trapped back inside Ben. And it's just so nice because other than Dark Willow and like Darla and Drusilla, like we don't have any big female villains. It's a lot of times typically Buffy facing off with these like masculine dude villains, I guess. So it's really nice to see ultimately what's the most powerful big bad being a woman, and having Buffy fight another woman. It just like changes the dynamic in a way that we hadn't seen up to season 5, and so it's really exciting. And sometimes it's nice to see a woman be bad. You know, it's so exciting in Buffy to have a female hero, but I think it's just as exciting to have a female villain. So ultimately her journey in season 5 is to find the key. So these monks have hidden the key on Earth in the form of Dawn, Buffy's younger sister, and Glory needs that key. She needs to use it to open up the barrier for all the dimensions so that she can get back to her hell dimension. But while doing that, it would basically create this portal where any hell dimension thing can come onto Earth. It all gets mixed up. Apocalypse, everything is goodbye. Humans would not survive this. This season also creates a different kind of way of fighting for Buffy, because typically, of course, she is fighting for like the world, but this time she's so specifically fighting for her sister. It's such a more personal connection. I don't know, it gives like her fighting a different dynamic, and then her ultimate sacrifice of her life to save the world, but mostly save her sister. Something else I really love about Glory, or Glorificus, is that not only is she a female villain, she is a feminine female villain, which I feel like we don't see a lot. She is wearing red silk dresses, her hair is done, her nails are done, she takes bubble baths, she eats chocolate and champagne. Like, she is, you know, a god, and she's trying to live like a god. Like, she has no interest like dwelling in the sewers or the, you know, the crypts like Drusilla. Like, she's like, no, I'm gonna live in this mansion and have a bunch of, you know, creepy, what are they called? Minion servants, I don't know. She's gonna live lavishly, and she's, you know, super feminine. And I think that is such a cool, exciting villain that we just don't get to see enough of. Speaking of Glory's minions, I love these little guys. They're creepy looking, they're funny, they have stupid lines. I just really like them. I don't know where they came from or why they worship her. The only like, I don't care about part of the big bad of season 5 is the Knights of Byzantium. They are this clan of knights or whatever that have come to find and destroy the key. They are ultimately humans that are dressed up as knights. I don't know, but they're pretty boring. I don't think they're super important, but they're there. That's also like the season where Willow kind of, I mean, up to that point, hits the height of her power, taking revenge on Glory, basically turning Tara's brain to mush. And when she like floats in with that power and she actually gets some like good hits in with Glory, who no one has been able to touch at all this whole season, It is just so powerful. But yeah, that's it. That is my ranking of Buffy the Vampire Slayer's big bads. Let me know your ranking down below, or just tell me your favorite. Who is your favorite big bad and why? Put it in the comments. I have some more Buffy videos coming out soon, so make sure you subscribe to check them all out. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Have a nice scream. Bye.